Gotham Season 2, Episode 3, The Last Laugh. Now, normally I always save the big question for the end of the review, but I just kind of have to ask you, right off the top, whether or not you guys think they kind of screwed up by killing off Jerome. It does make it official that he's not the Joker, which they did say. It was always like, we're not saying he's the Joker or anything like that. Obviously inspired by the Joker, and considering how they wrote it, he's technically the one that inspired the Joker, so kind of full circle by the end. But I want to know what you guys think on that one for sure. Personally, I'm okay with it because, I mean, I do love the character. I do wish that he stayed on if it was kind of like this was the Joker eventually. And, it was kind of like the Penguin thing, Penguin as well as Riddler, where it just built up continually. I would have been fine with that. But it was definitely a shock. I think it's probably the biggest shock we've had. It's definitely the biggest shock we've had this season. But it's one of the biggest shocks we've had the whole series, I think, because we're only 3 episodes in, and he really only had, his initial episode from the last season, and then the first couple episodes this season. I thought Jerome was going to keep going for a while. I didn't know if he'd, really be taken off at all. But the way they did it made it even more surprising because, they have the whole plan. He's following through. It's like, all right, we have Galavant being like the hero and stuff like that, which is just super cheesy when he was on TV, and it's like, what's your name and stuff, and he's like, he turns to the camera and everything is like Theo, and it was just like, okay, well, that wasn't super obvious apparently to anybody else, but he has this plan where it's like, I'm gonna be the hero and stuff, and he takes it a bit further. Like, he stabs Jerome in the neck, and initially I thought he just like hit him with some like something to knock him out with. I didn't think it was like just a flat out knife. He just stabbed him in the neck and killed him. But it was pretty crazy. It was a big shock. It definitely worked because, of course, everyone's like, oh, he really helped. He stopped Jerome, and Jerome was obviously insane. So his plan worked perfectly, but he did kill off a really great character, which really sucks. But it was definitely an awesome episode. It was an awesome final episode for him because he goes to his father and he's just being crazy and stuff, and it was just fun to watch the whole episode. Like, honestly, because of him, stuff is just really fun, and that's kind of why it was cool that he had such a focus in these first couple episodes. And I do, like I said, of course, I wish it lasted longer, but I personally don't think they flat out screwed up taking him out of the show. But it does kind of suck that he isn't going to be there anymore because he was really fun. He was just a fun character. He just did things. The actor did really well. It was just like in this episode, he had like I think one of my favorite moments was when he was doing like the laugh on the camera. He's like ha ha ha, and then he just stopped. I was like, I think that went well, and that was just really funny to me because he was playing it up, and then it was just like, okay, I think that went pretty good, and it was just really funny to me, and I enjoyed that. And just watching the whole thing where it's like we have all these characters, trapped inside this vent. And so we have villains and we have heroes. We have some stuff. We get to see Penguin again in this episode, although now that they've kind of set him up, it's kind of funny. Like, his position is really just like, it's almost in the background because he's kind of doing okay. But I think after this episode, as Theo kind of moves along with his plan, Penguin's going to get more and more involved because it's like, oh, we have this new hero in town. It's like, that's no big deal to me. But then he's going to realize that this guy basically wants to take over all of Gotham. And I think this is kind of like the first episode where they don't know it yet. Like, Penguin doesn't really realize it. It's just like, oh, this crazy kid. But that was the beginning of Theo starting to take over all of Gotham. Whether it was the good side or the dark side of it, he's going to try to take over. So I think Penguin is about to start getting a lot more integration in this season, which I'm excited for because obviously he's in this new position. All we've really seen him do is sit at that really big table, and that's about it. So I'm looking forward to more Penguin integration and seeing how, really getting a focus on how different he is compared to when he was trying to rise to power. But we got to see him and Bullock have a conversation where Bullock basically admits that he was with Fish, which I thought was kind of surprising. But, we have that, and everything's so, I guess, between them. He's like, I'm not going to beat you up, but I do technically still owe you for Fish. So they'll have an interesting relationship, and of course he knows the rumors about Jim having killed a guy, And Penguin kind of lets him know, like, that's fine, we're buddies, no big deal, it doesn't matter, that secret's going to be kept secret. So, they have an interesting moment. Bullock gets confirmation. Of course, that, you know, I think he was kind of driven to that because of just the whole episode. I mean, Jim was like, the opening to this episode, probably the best opening they've had for any episode, like, out of this series so far. And it's just like, they're just throwing people out of buildings. And I mean, obviously, he knew that there was trash there because he's not flat out killing people. But he kind of is, because you don't get tossed through glass and then land on garbage and you're fine. In real life, you're dead. Like, you will get cut up, you will be all jacked up. I mean, I guess you wouldn't die necessarily, depending on where it hit you, but he was just throwing people out of the windows. And it was awesome. It was definitely an awesome opening, because it was the darker side of Jim, which is what I loved about the premiere. He doesn't need to go that dark where he ends up killing people by mistake. I'm fine if he doesn't. But he was mad. He wanted to find Jerome. He was just like, okay, you're not talking. And then let's toss this guy out the window. So I love the opening for sure. It was definitely my favorite opening. And I think, that just kind of showed Bullock, like, man, he's going really far with things. I kind of have to go to Penguin and just, like, see just where everything is right now. So I did enjoy that scene. It was a minor scene, just kind of thrown in towards the end there. But it was definitely important to know where these characters stand, because now that Jim has done what he's done, it changes things up. Like, it does change. If he screws over Penguin or he pisses him off, he does have that, on him now. It's like, he definitely did kill a guy. The rumors are all over the place, but it's just rumors at this point. So Bullock knows that he's gonna kind of have to work a little bit between Jim, who of course he cares for, and then Penguin, who he kind of just wants to beat up on principle alone. So I think it kind of created, like, just our introduction to this new balance between Jim, Harvey, and the Penguin, because of course Mooney isn't there. So very different dynamic as far as the, I guess, underground person that they go to, and there's only one, with it being Penguin, until Theo does whatever it is that he does. But I definitely enjoyed this episode. It was really good. It definitely had some funny moments, not just like Jerome stuff, but I think the funniest thing for sure was Alfred hitting on the doc. I can't think of her name, but that was so funny to me. And then when she kisses Jim at the end, and he turns and he's like, "Oh, it's like, you knew that, didn't you?" And Bruce is just like, "Alfred, I didn't know." He's like, "No, you knew. You just let me be stupid the whole time." I loved that. I thought it was really funny. Like, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed, for sure, Jerome's death, them killing him, where he does have a smile on his face. Of course, very, very Joker-like. So I love that for sure. That was a great way to officially end his character, where he does die with a smile on his face. And his father's words kind of echo his narration at the end, where he does affect other people in crappy situations, or people who are just bad people, and they just laugh through the pain, or they laugh and cause pain. And we got to see that with the two guys at the end, where they were just, like, stabbing this dude. And it was definitely some TV stabbing where it's just like, ha! And, he's just stabbing people. And then the two guys, like, high five. And then the one guy stabs him, which is definitely, like, it was completely pointless as far as story. But that shocked me. I was like, holy crap, he just killed his friend. Like, he went full on insane. They kill this dude. They're like, ha ha ha. And it's like, I'm just going to stab my buddy. And then he's just like, ha! And just stabbing him in the chest. I was like, that was a fairly powerful scene, and it was just random characters that I'm sure we'll never see again. And like the little kid with the braces and stuff, who had like arguing parents. Like, I don't know if any of you guys missed that, but they had like silhouettes of his parents arguing, and he just like that crappy sort of life. So I like the way that they ended it. I was like, okay, if he's officially not the Joker, I do love the fact that it's like he at least does inspire the Joker. And I thought that was pretty cool. He totally could have been the Joker, because he's only probably like my age, and I'm 23, and for the show Bruce is like 12, so a 10-year difference wouldn't be that big of a deal. If he did become the Joker and Bruce was Batman, it would be totally fine. Like, I could understand that, but they decided not to do that, which once again it does kind of suck, because of course, not just because it's the Joker. Like, the Joker is of course, like, it's like, oh, it's the Joker, typically speaking, a favorite Batman villain, but it was a character that the show needed. At least this specific version, or whatever they were doing with it, it did kind of need it, because everyone was just kind of up and down about the show. And I think Jerome was definitely the best part of this season, where he had those standout moments. He had the cool scene in the last episode when they were doing like the Russian roulette stuff, and of course him leading the whole charge on the GCPD and stuff like that, and this episode as well. So it was definitely a kick that the show needed, but I'm hoping that them killing off this character means they have something good planned, because none of those other henchmen really had like anything that mattered whatsoever. So I don't know how it's gonna play out, but I'm excited for it. They do create a rift by the end of this episode between Theo and his sister, because of course Barbara's just like super slut 9000, and she's just like, I mean, okay, when she was kissing the girl in the beginning, I was like, all right, so they're together, no big deal. Like, oh, that's interesting. They're evil together. All right, that works. And then she kisses Theo at the end, and of course the sister sees it. And I wish I could think of her name, but she sees it. So now it's going to be like a rift between the two of them. Who knows if they'll split as far as being villains for the season now, or how that's going to play out. But it's like, of course she did that. It's like whether the person's a hero or villain, Barbara's just like, I'll kiss you and then kiss somebody else. So it's just like, okay, whatever. But she's still more interesting now, so it's not like she's just cheating. She's cheating on villains, which could get her killed, which might make some people happy. I kind of like her character where she is now, because it is a very weird in-between where she gets to escape and stuff like that, but she does get to have this effect where she messes with things, especially with Jim, and like Theo said, I'll help you not kill him, but destroy him body and soul, and that's what she really wants. So now there's a rift between the villains, which probably came at the perfect time since Jerome isn't there, because I feel like he would have just like taken over if they were all arguing and he was still alive. So it's probably a smart plan for that to take place, even though it wasn't intentional. Like, Theo didn't know what was going to happen between him and Barbara, but probably a good time for Jerome to be out of the picture, because I feel like he would have totally stepped up. Like, he followed orders and everything, but I think he's the type of character, I guess because it was a very Joker-like character, he would have done the exact same thing as the Joker, which would be like, oh, well, now that there's mass chaos, I'll use this to just jump right to the top. So it was interesting. I really liked this episode. Like, you know, some of the things that they introduced, like the dynamic, our new underground dynamic with the Penguin, the new rift between the villains. We lost a villain who was actually really awesome and probably like the best character that the show's had. Outside of Penguin, who of course had like his whole storyline, but Jerome only had 4 episodes, and it was way cooler than like anything the series has had so far as I'm concerned. But of course, you guys can let me know that. But I'm excited for it. I'm very curious, I should say. I mean, I'm still excited, but more curious than anything, because they killed off this really important character. I think that was the character. It was like, all right, we have Penguin for season 1. They introduced Jerome, and it was like, okay, for sure these two characters are done well, acted well, great. And then with this season being Rise of the Villains, and of course it's the rise of Theo Galavant. That was, of course, he's their main villain. That's the point. But I don't know. Everyone liked Jerome. He was a cool character to watch. So I'm insanely curious how they're going to switch things up now. They don't really have any more henchmen. It was only Jerome. Everyone else got killed or captured. Or I guess everyone got killed, because the one guy that got captured during the bus thing, he got shot. So they killed him off to tie up that loose end. Jerome shot the other dude that he had tension with because he stole his line. He just killed that guy. I guess the only other person is like the big strong guy. He's the only henchman they actually have left. Everyone else was killed or captured and then killed as a loose end. So they don't really have anybody. It's like Barbara, Theo, his sister, and the strong guy. That's 4 people. And then we have the Penguin, who's, you know, totally separated from them. So I don't know how this is going to play out, but I'm very curious. They killed off a pretty awesome character, but they did it in a really awesome way. So despite not wanting the character to go, I do completely love the way that they did it. Like, he died with a smile on his face, and, you know, I'm sure, like I said, we won't see any of those people that they showed at the end of the episode who were infected, basically, by Jerome, and just him just doing whatever he wants, and people wanting to live that out. I'm sure we won't have a storyline like that. I would love it if we did, because his father, the narration stuff. I'd love it if there was a whole episode where people were just kind of going nuts because of what Jerome inspired them to do. But I don't think we're gonna get that as a focus, where it's just a bunch of killings and stuff like that. It would be kind of cool though, because I think when Gotham goes dark, that's when it's best, and it gets crazier to see, how far Jim has to go to accomplish certain goals. But I did really love this episode. I wish it was a different ending, but that ultimately, I mean, even that included kind of makes the episode so great because it was such a huge shock. It was just great, and just it's hard not to love the way that they killed him off, where he does die with a smile on his face. It's like, man, I don't like that he died, but it's like it's awesome getting that scene because that's just Joker, and it's just very awesome. It's very well done. So, like I said, my big question for you guys is, of course, did they screw up? Like, that's the big thing. But in general, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I guess if you guys think they did screw up, what can they do to rectify it, or if anything? Because, like I said, Jerome was so popular as a character, or at least I think it was. I wasn't like watching a bunch of stuff, but everyone always mentioned either the Penguin or Joker. Those are like the two people they mentioned, and it was like a nod to Riddler just because he's in the show. But those were the two that everyone really would talk about. So if they did screw up, how can they fix it if they can? And if you guys don't think they screwed up, then why not? Because like I said, for me personally, I guess I just have faith in them if they decided to do it. Hopefully my faith isn't wrong and they don't, the rest of the season sucks because Jerome was killed off. But at least they had a good start. First 3 episodes, pretty amazing. So we'll see where it goes. But like I said, please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.